Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. I'm glad to hear this Monday morning. Got a good week lined up, a good show today. Got a couple of very interesting videos, and you're going to really enjoy it. But first, let's get our weather brought to us by Haney Technical Center at the corner of Baldwin and Highway 77. High today is going to be 75 and low of 53, and that's just good seasonable weather to start counting down to Thanksgiving. A lot of folks are getting ready to get ready for it. Just a big Thanksgiving weekend, and that's right around the corner, folks. Water temperature is hanging around there, 70 degrees, just sort of level off. It's in good shape there. We're sort of in a November trend, even though we're halfway through November. It is getting cool now, but first week or two of November was just some unseasonably warm weather. Hopefully we got that behind us and get some cool fall weather like we all like this time of year going into Thanksgiving. I don't like to have to wear T-shirts and shorts on Thanksgiving, but a lot of times we're doing that. Moon phase brought to us by Sandhill Seafood. This is in November. Looking at we're in a waxing moon now. We got a good situation with the moon. Our tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn. Looking at that really quick. Today is sort of a neap tide, but jump ahead and looking on toward the weekend, we have some good tidal movement for this weekend's fishing. So if you're off today, a lot of y'all get off on Mondays, so you're not going to have a lot of tidal flow. The river's in pretty good shape, though. Everything looks good, but this weekend tide is going to be really good, okay? Let's go and take our break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. We're going to do a little segment here, part of our heritage, part of our history. I do that on occasion. I get so many good responses from it. So this is going to be an interesting one. We're going to talk about the SS Tarpon. We have Tarpon Dock down there. It's named Tarpon Dock because this is where the SS Tarpon docked up in the old days. And this book was written by my dear late friend, Captain Richard Holly. And I was with him. We would have breakfast every morning after Panhandle Outdoors. I'd meet him at Flapjacks, and we talked about my book, and we talked about his book, and he went over to Mobile and did all kind of digging and got the records of the shipwreck and all. And you heard about the Tarpon wreck. Let me just read you on the back of the book what it says. To give you the history of it in case you're not from around here, you'll appreciate this. From 1903 until 1937, the coastal towns of Mobile, Pensacola, Panama City, Apalachicola, and Carabel depended on the SS Tarpon to meet the demands of commerce along the Gulf Coast. During those 34 years, the Tarpon and their master, Captain Barrow, became famous among the residents of these communities for their dependability and superior seamanship. His outstanding efforts, they brought normal day-to-day living with the commodities, they brought the mail, they brought passengers. That was a big deal in those days because we didn't have the road system we have now. So the tarpon, he made a record of 1,735 trips, and then on September the 1st, 1937, it ran into some bad weather, and it was the wreck of the SS Tarpon, which was an amazing tragedy around here. And this is what he covered and how the wreck happened and all. So 1937 went down, and remember, we didn't have the technology. So in those days we have now. So some young men back, and so World War II came right after that, build up. So people just didn't think much about it. The Tarpon wreck. Actually, they lost 19 lives were lost. 19 lives were lost, and there were 31 people on board. 12 of them, a couple of them swam to shore, some were picked up. They lost 19 lives, and the wreck was out here on off Panama City Beach in about 100 feet of water. And the storm just came in, and I read it, really good reading and all. And I'll tell you later about where you can find the book. But what happened, nobody ever found the boat. So they were looking all over, and I heard this story a good while back from Ronnie Groom told me how they found the tarpon. And so I got to thinking about it. I said, I want to get an interview with this. And so I went down the other day. I called Ronnie. I said, Ronnie, I want you to tell us a story how y'all found the tarpon, because it's a fascinating story. It's hard to believe because of how they did it. And again, the technology wasn't there, but keep in mind this was the beginning of the diving days, where Ronnie Groom and some of those guys, Burt Gwaltney and a handful of Bay County guys, just started putting together the diving experiences. They were doing some diving, and they wanted to find the tarpon. That was like a huge, huge challenge. And they knew it was somewhere off Highway 79, where they knew it was off what they called a Y, but they didn't know much about it. And how they put this together, you're not going to believe how they found it, but it's just fascinating. So we have this interview with Ronnie Groom on how they found it, and it's part of our heritage here in the Panhandle. So we're going to roll this video. I think you're really going to like it, so let's roll this. All right, Ronnie, tell us, one of the most fascinating stories I've heard is how you guys found the tarpon. Tell us the background of finding the SS Tarpon.
Well, we looked for it for several years. It was really hard to find without all the modern equipment we have now. And some of the captains knew where it was, and it's a tremendous wreck, has a tremendous history behind it, But we started looking for it long ago, and we chartered a plane once or twice and flew out there. On a good day, we thought we'd be able to see it and have somebody there in a boat, drop a buoy on it. But that didn't work, so we finally found out, roughly where it was. And we got some bearings on it. We used to use land bearings. We didn't have all this modern equipment to use, so we had some land bearings on it. We found out that it was about a quarter of a mile east of the Y road. What is that, 79? 79. We knew it was about a quarter of a mile west of there, and about somewhere around 100 foot of water. So we got us a plan made. We got us an anchor and marked it at 96 foot exactly. Is what we marked the anchor to know how deep it was. And we got a boat out there in that area. And I took my boat and we ran down the beach to 79. And then I turned the steering wheel to my back. And I kept the Y open. You can see it, a long ways. And every so often we'd stop and check the measurement, see how deep it was. And we'd go on out till we got to the right depth and we threw a buoy. Then we ran what we thought was a quarter to the east, threw another buoy. And then we started circling around and around and around. And we did that probably 45 minutes to an hour. And we didn't find anything, so my little brother Raymond said, drag me behind the boat. And so we threw a rope out the back of the boat, and he held on to it, and we drug him in circles.
You put a mask on? Or?
Put a mask and fins on, and we drug him round and around, and finally he said, a lot of barracudas. And he said, they're going back this way. So he went following him, and we followed him. And finally he said they kind of settled, and we threw a buoy, and that's where it was.
So those barracudas sort of led y'all to it?
Yeah. they were probably maybe 100 yards off the wreck. And we got on there. It was interesting. It was a beautiful day. The water was crystal clear. And when I jumped out of the boat with my tank, but we free dived first and shot some fish up in the water, spearfishing. And then when they all went down to the wreck, I got my tank regular on, spear gun. I jumped over, and there was just a big half bubble over the wreck, bait fish, billions of them. And I started down, and I looked at the bait fish, and right through the middle of all this bait fish, about a 40-pound black grouper came up. And I shot him before I could even get to the wreck. And then we went down and shot some more fish. Just had a wonderful dive.
When you first looked at it, what did it look like, the wreck itself?
There was quite a bit of wreckage there then. I understand part of the superstructure had been pulled off somewhere, it probably wood and disintegrated. Mm-hmm. But the boilers and all were there, and now I understand there's very little left of it. Mm-hmm. Just a pile of metal, you know. But it was a beautiful wreck. We went there over and over, and you never knew what you were going to see there.
Who all was with you on that trip? Some of the guys that went with you.
I know Bert Gwaltney was there. Ernie Palmer was there. It was two boats of us. And Buddy Voss, I think, was there. Most of the old shooter giggers were there.
Yeah. Well, that was a fascinating part of our history right there. I guess, did y'all go back to it pretty regular?
We didn't want to fish it too much, and we'd go back probably once every couple of months, 3 months, something like that. You never knew what you were going to see. We saw some fine bull sharks on that thing, and we killed some old jewfish, you know, some grouper, and snapper, flounders. It was an interesting wreck.
Okay, Ronnie, I know when you drove it and you got some fish and everything, I guess it was fascinating to see what all was out there. I know beer bottles was one of the claim to fame about people finding the beer bottles. Tell us what you saw first.
Yeah, well, there was beer bottles everywhere. They must, you know, it was a cargo ship too. They carried cargo all down the coast, and it was just hundreds and hundreds of beer bottles down there. And there was some white china bowls and dishes, plates. And I picked up 4 or 5 pieces of that, and I brought it home, and I showed my mom, and I said, this came off the tarpon, and it had barnacles on it, little growth around it. And about a week later I saw her, and she showed it to me. She had washed it. I'm sure she intended to use it. But it was a very interesting wreck. One of the highlights of my diving career was the first dive on the tarpon. It was a beautiful day, crystal clear water. You could see the wreck from about 60, 70 feet up when you get down that far. You know, we shot some amberjack on that thing well, I shot one that weighed 96 pounds.
Wow.
That's a big amberjack. I shot him and got him right up to the boat, had my hand on the side of the boat. He was on the line down there on the gun, and he pulled me all the way back to the bottom again. I had to come back up again, but we killed some really good fish. But it was an interesting wreck. It was an interesting dive, and one of the highlights of my diving career.
Okay, welcome back. Now, can you believe that interview? Can you believe they actually pulled, Ronnie and those guys pulled his brother behind the boat, and his brother had on mask and snorkel, and they saw the barracudas and knew the barracudas were close to the tarpon, and they were the first ones to discover it. It was a huge deal back then, and still, you look back on it, it's amazing they found it. So I've got a old beer bottle from it, and different people have different things, but it's a fascinating part of our heritage, and I wanted to have it. Now we got an oral history of what happened back in the day. So that's on the SS Tarpon. Now let's go from our past to our future. What hunting holds. Before we do that, speaking of the past, they've come out. Ronnie, Brad Pitts, and his sister Corinda Pitts have put together this book right here, brand new. They got it down at C&G. It's called Fins and Friends. And I was looking through it, read it last night, and it is just a great collection of pictures and all from those diving days in the 50s and early 60s, where the amount of fish, the size of these fish and all is incredible. It's like they're a scrapbook put together in a book. And it's just fascinating at the books, at the size of the fish and all in here. It was a unique time. I'm talking more about this book later, but if you want to get it, they got it down at C&G. So it's called Fins and Friends. I thought it was a cool name right there, Fins and Friends. Okay, now let's go into our future as to what our future holds for us and all here in the Florida Panhandle. We got a little video coming up on it, and my little great nephew Dylan Chester up there in Bristol, they put together a little video about this he's going out in the backyard and going squirrel hunting, and I thought it was so well done, because it shows our future generation how they're going to still enjoy the outdoors and enjoy hunting and doing different things like that. So we just showed the past, now we're going to show the future of what hunting holds here in the Florida Panhandle. So let's roll this video here.
This old tree stand was back there in the backyard, and I've always wanted to mess with it and fiddle with it, and I finally came up with an idea, and I said, "Dad, can I build a tree stand out of it, and it could be a good project?" And he said, "Sure." And today we finally got the hard work in, so I'm going to show you how it works. I have to climb up the ladder first, but you always have to be careful and always hold on to something. Like this is my good safety support. And then I sit down. I put my safety strap on, and first of all, always be careful. You always have to have safety first. Because if you fall out without a safety belt, then you could break your neck. But if you have a safety belt and you fall, then you won't break anything. Next step is get comfortable. All right, so you have to grab the string and make sure your gun doesn't hit the ladder or the tree, and go easily one by one. Then you grab the gun. Now you unhook it from this. Get the strap off the gun, then you gently drop it. Then you ready? Like this is a good position. Say there's a squirrel on that post right there. All right, so the way I get propped up is like that. And say there's a squirrel at the fire pit. Then I have to turn this way, and then I'm at the fire pit. I can do any angle in this tree stand. And when you're done squirrel hunting, you grab this, wrap it around the barrel, have some slack where you could do this, then you tighten it. You tighten it right here very carefully. Always be careful with this. You gently put it down and easily let it go down without hitting the ladder or the tree. Then, as soon as the gun's down and that's secured, you take off your safety belt. Always be careful with the safety belt. Alright, so now, when you have no safety belt on, you turn like this. Your left foot goes right here. Get some support right here. Some support where you don't fall backwards. And then right here, here. And that's the end of the day. I was out there, I know I hit two. I hit one right there. I saw the blood pouring out. But I know I shot another one. He really had a big reaction. It looked like I was about to kill him. So I'm about to ride out here on the Ranger to see, get my stuff and go check. So we're coming over here. There's my ladder stand. I killed one. I know I killed one. I'm gonna go see if they're back here. Thank you for watching.
Okay, welcome back. Let's take a look at our fishing game time for today, brought to us by Blue Water Outriggers. We're looking at this morning from 7:57 to 9:57, and later this evening from 8:21 to 10:21. Again, I hope you enjoy those videos. They're a lot of fun to do, a lot of fun to put together, but that's a little bit of how to squirrel hunt in your backyard, and Dylan is a good little outdoorsman. So we're going to hope to show more of him later on. But let's talk a minute early about the early part of the show about this book here, Fins and Friends. I was going to read you the back cover of it because it tells you what the book is about. Because it was at a unique time that's really not covered much. I did the early history and all. I did 100 years, and each decade was in there. So this one covers the 1950s, and I'm going to read what it says on the back of this book. It sort of gives you an idea of what was going on then. The 1950s were a unique time. Nature was mostly unspoiled, and friendships were formed to last a lifetime. The contributors to this book explored the world of salt water together, and most of these boys grew up and down there in the cove, and decades later they're still close a close-knit group. They still get together for fish fries and telling fishing stories, so they decided it was time to put some of their memories to share with you in this book. They still love the open water, and they still love coming home to dinner and maybe having a big, even though they're a bit slower these days, this Ronnie Groom, Pitts. Let me read your names in here because y'all know a lot of these names of friends and friends. The big thing, or the pictures, let's see, Charlie Lahan, Edwin Peters, Gary Seymour, Jerry Sowell, Bud Voss, Jan Voss, and Jim Voss, and Bentley Waterfield, and Burke Waltney. So all these guys, that was an early group of guys who really started the diving experience, underwater experience here. And they say some of these guys now at the Naval Diving Center will come talk to them. They just shake their head. They said none of them should be alive now. But the way they did the diving in those early days, how the tanks and all they were doing, and Ronnie learned how to dive himself, and then he became a certified diving instructor, and then he became teaching classes. But no one taught him how to do it. These guys taught themselves how to do it, and they were at the jetties a lot, and they were innovative with their spear gun, their gigging guns, and you can imagine that was a world unspoiled underwater they were able to see in those days, and these pictures in here. So I highly recommend Fins and Friends on those days. But anyway, finding the tarpon was so important because what they did is showed how those fish, that was really the first structure we had that were evident to divers, how the structure would bring in the fish. They had all kind of bait fish there, all kind of huge amberjacks, and you heard Ronnie say about a 97-pound amberjack. Can you imagine hitting that with a spear, and then he was hanging on the side of the boat, and the amberjack pulled him back down on the water. So that's how strong they are. So anyway, we're gonna have to start wrapping things up. We got all week long. We got some really good stuff coming up, and again, we're getting ready for Thanksgiving. If you have any good pictures of your kids or your grandparents or your cousins or anybody with a big fish or a big buck or something you want to share, send it to me on email, and we'll put it on the show. It's always good to keep up with what's going on in the Panhandle. Any kind of announcements you want to mention about anything pertaining to outdoors or fundraisers or whatever, we're always glad to share it with our viewers. So let's start wrapping things up. As always, we tell you how much we appreciate you watching the show. We'll always ask you to do something good for your fellow man, help them out some way, some form or fashion. It always makes your day a little bit better. You have a great day, enjoy the outdoors, and God bless.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.